Hello everyone and welcome back to our course on Word 2019. We're still in section 10 and we've made it all the way down to module 4. And in this entire section we've been looking at how you can insert graphical elements into your documents. And we're now going to talk about how you can utilize shapes in your document. And shapes will really help you enhance your pictures, or maybe they'll help you draw diagrams and just add a little bit of interest into your documents. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll to underneath this picture here. And I'm going to put in a page break. And if we remember, the quick way of doing that is just to press Control-Enter on your keyboard. So this is going to get me to a blank page. Because before we get into adding some shapes onto our picture, I just want to go through some of the options you have when it comes to adding shapes. So you'll find your shape tools on the Insert ribbon. And in this big illustrations group, you'll see we have a drop down for shapes. And the first thing you'll notice is that the shapes are categorized. So you'll find any that you've recently used will be at the top of that list. We then have some options for lines, rectangles. We have some basic shapes in there, and that includes a text box, which is the first one. We have some block arrows, equation shapes, some shapes you might use if you were constructing a flowchart. We have stars and banners, and we also have call-outs at the bottom. So it's very simple to insert a shape. So let's do something very basic first of all. I'm going to go to the lines category, and I'm just going to select this first very basic line. So I'm going to click it, and you can see I now have a crosshair cursor. And all I need to do is click and drag, and I can drag it up and down, so it depends if I want it to be completely horizontal or slightly diagonal. And I'm going to let go just there. And if you want to change the size of it, you do have these control handles at either end, and you can drag it in or drag it out, or as I said, you can pull it up and down to make it more diagonal. Now, when you do insert a shape, you're going to get a contextual ribbon. So I've drawn a line here. So now on my format ribbon, I have all of my options for my line. So I can go in, I can change the style, the thickness, do whatever I like with that particular shape. Now I'm going to draw another shape in my document. So you might think I'll have to go back to the Insert ribbon to draw that shape. But actually, if I'm on this Format tab, I have my insert shapes over here as well in this first group. So I can click the drop down and I get exactly the same palette of shapes. So this time I'm going to take, let's do a rounded rectangle, and I'm going to just drag it and I'm going to place it over the top of this line. So you can place shapes on top of other shapes. Now, if I wanted the line in front of that shape, I could pull it forward or push it back simply by using some commands on my Format ribbon again. In the Arrange group towards the right-hand side, I have an option to bring forward or send backwards. So if I wanted my blue rounded rectangle to be behind my line, all I need to do is make sure I have the rectangle selected, and I could say send to back, and that will pull my line forward essentially. Okay, so just be aware that your shapes are kind of in layers and you can pull them forward or push them back. If you want to move a shape, it's a simple case of just clicking on it and dragging and dropping it to its new location. Now I'm going to draw another shape, so I'm going to go up to Insert Shapes. I'm going to go to my Basic Shapes category, and I'm just going to grab this little smiley face. And I'm going to do a little smiley face like so. Now I don't know if you notice when I drag that shape out, or if I continue to drag it in, I can make it really flat or really thin, so the aspect ratio isn't locked. If I want to lock the aspect ratio so that it resizes correctly each time, just going to delete that out. When I grab my shape, so let me go back in and pick up that smiley face. If I hold down my Shift key, click and drag, it's going to mean that it's a perfect circle all the time. So that's a nice little tip to learn as well. Now you'll notice with some shapes, you'll have a little yellow circle on them like we have in this one. And again, that's just a control handle. And you can see it's over the smile here. So if I grab this control handle, I can actually make him frown. So look out for that. You'll see that on some of the shapes that you insert. And let me show you another example of that. If we go to Insert and go to Shapes, and this time I'm going to go down to the Stars and Banners section, and I'm going to select this 16-point star, And I'm just going to drag it out like so. And again, you'll see we have that little yellow handle. Now, if I pull that down, it gives me a different type of star. Pull it out and I get something completely different. So that's quite nice as well. Now, when it comes to copying shapes, you can definitely still utilize your Control-C for copy and Control-V to paste. That's perfectly fine. But a quicker way of doing it is to duplicate the object or the shape. And the shortcut key for duplicate is Control-D. So if I want to duplicate this star a few times, if I just press Control-D and carry on pressing it, I get lots and lots of stars, which I can then move individually. Or if I wanted to have them all as one object, I could group them together. Now, when it comes to the color or the fill of your shapes, if we just select our rounded rectangle again, you'll find those options up on the Format ribbon. And you can see we have some shape styles in this drop down. So I could choose to apply any of these pre-formatted shape styles. Alternatively, I can customize the shape fill and the shape outline on their own. So I can go to shape fill, and I might want to have this as a dark red, and I might want to say the outline is black. And remember, you can also change the weight of that outline from here as well. Now, one last thing I want to show you on this page before we go back to our picture, which we inserted on the first page, is the text box. So again, let's go to Insert, click on Shapes, and you'll find text box under Basic Shapes. If I hover over, you can see it's the first one in the list. I'm going to click it, and then I just need to click, and that gives me a text box where I can then type some text, like so. And you can see that it's put a border around the outside. Now, if I didn't want that, if I just wanted the text to look like it's floating, so again, if I go up to my Format ribbon and I go to my Shape Outline, I can say No Outline to get rid of that box. And then I have what looks to be floating text. Now, you can see that this text box has a white background. So again, if I want to remove that, it's just a case of removing the shape fill by clicking No Fill. And then it looks like I have floating text. So I can put that in the middle. And if I wanted to, I can make some changes to the font just using my font options on my home ribbon. So I might want to make it a bit bigger. And I also might want to change the text to white. And I'm going to reposition that in the middle like so. Okay, so fairly simple to work with shapes. And a lot of the shape options were reflected in the picture options as well. So how can we use shapes when we already have an existing picture? Well, let's go back up to this one here that we put in earlier. It might be that I want to add some information about this cabin. So I'm going to add a text box. So back to Shapes and Text Box. And I'm going to say amazing cabin in the woods. And again, I can customize any of these options. So I don't want the outline, so I'm going to say no outline. I'm going to say no fill. And I'm just going to edit this text a little bit. So I'm going to go back to my font tools. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. And I'm going to change the color to a dark red color. And I might want to just place that there. I might then want to use another shape tool, so back to Insert, and we're going to go to Shapes. And this time I'm going to go to Lines, and I'm going to select this line arrow. And I'm going to take my line arrow and just draw it to there. And again, I could format this as I want. So maybe I want it to match the text color, so I'm going to make it that dark red. And maybe I also want to make the line a little bit thicker. There we go. And just so you can see one more, I might want to maybe circle the door on this cabin. So again, back to Insert, down to Shapes, and I'm going to utilize the oval in Basic Shapes. Now, if I want this to be an exact circle, remember, hold down your Shift key and drag like so. Now, I want this to circle the door. Now, if I put it over the top, because this circle has a fill, I can't see the door. So I'm going to want to go to Shape Fill and just say No Fill. And again, I might want to change the outline color. So let's make the outline color white, and let's make it a little bit thicker again. like so. And I might want to drag that in, make it slightly smaller so it looks a little bit better. Okay, so that's a very rough example. I'm sure you can make things look a lot nicer than I have done here, but hopefully that gives you an idea of how you can insert shapes into your document and also utilize them with other picture images that you've put in your documents. That's it for this module. Next, we're going to look at how to use icons and 3D shapes, and both of those are new for 2019. So I will see you then. Hello everyone and welcome back to our course on Word 2019. We're still in section 10 and we're down in module 5 where we're going to talk a little bit about inserting icons and 3D models. Now, icons and 3D models are something that are fairly new to Word, so you would have seen these in Word 2016, and of course they carry through to Word 2019. And you'll also see them if you're using the Office 365 version of Word. Now again, these are things that have been added just to add some pizzazz to your documents, and icons happen to be one of my personal favourite things in the Microsoft applications. You'll see both icons and 3D models are available not only in Word, but you'll also find them in Excel and PowerPoint as well, and they really can look very nice. So let me show you where they're located. So we're going to jump up to the Insert ribbon. And we're going to stay in this illustrations group, and we're going to first start by looking at icons. So you can see there it says insert an icon to visually communicate using symbols. And that's exactly what icons are. They're like a better version of symbols if you've ever used those in your document. But the cool thing about icons is that they're completely customizable. So sometimes with symbols or icons that you might download from the web, you can't customize them or they're difficult to customize. But with icons in Word, you can change the color, you can resize them, so they do look really, really good. Now, why might you want to use icons? Well, as I said, they do add a little bit of visual interest into your document. They might be good to use in a header even. And that's what I'm going to use them for in this example. So the first thing I'm going to do in this document is I'm going to double click to jump into that header area. I'm then going to go to my Insert ribbon and I'm going to click on Icons. And what you'll see here are all of your icons organized into groups, and these groups are in alphabetical order. So if you kind of have an idea of what you're looking for, it's probably best to look through all of these categories and find the icon that you're looking for. Alternatively, you can just scroll through and browse through the different categories. Now, my document's related to housing, so I'm going to click on this buildings category. And I might decide that I want to use one of these in my header. So let's use this little icon just here of a house. I'm going to click it and click Insert at the bottom. And there we go, I have my cute little icon. Now it's a little bit large, so I'm going to drag that resize handle in just to make it a little bit smaller, like so. And again, what you'll see here is I get my Graphics Tools Format ribbon, which gives me all of my options for my icon. So if I want to change the color, I can go in and I can change the color of it. I could also change the outline, and I also have graphic effects, and we've looked at these in previous modules. So pretty much all the same images. I'm just going to close my header and footer so you can see what that looks like. So icons are a really cool way of adding a little bit of visual interest into your documents. So definitely have a look at those and a little play around. The other thing that's new to Word is this 3D models option. And these are really cool. So let's jump into that. Now, if you had a 3D model graphic saved off to your PC, you could insert that from a file. But I'm going to go to Online Sources. And again, this is where you'll find all of your 3D models organized into categories. So you could browse through, or alternatively, if you know what you're looking for, you could just type your keyword into the field at the top and press enter to search for it. Now I'm going to be looking for a house. So let's just type in house and press enter. And you'll see I get all of these different options. Now this one looks pretty good. I'm going to select that and I'm going to click insert. And there we have my house. Now currently it's positioned over the top of my text. So remember, we have those wrap text options. So I'm going to say square like so. And I'm just going to move it down a little bit to there. Now, the cool thing about 3D models is when you click on it, you can just drag the middle and rotate that picture around. How cool is that? So it really does add a nice visual element. So I'm going to just rotate it to there. And I think that looks really nice. So icons and 3D models will really help add some pizzazz to your document. So it's definitely worth having a play around and an experiment with both of those. That about wraps it up for this module. In the next module, we're going to be taking a look at other things you can do with graphics. So I will see you then. Hello everyone, this is Deb and welcome back to Word 2019. We've made it all the way down to the end of section 10, to the last module, module 6. And in this final module, I really want to wrap this whole section up just by running you through very briefly some of the other options we have with regards to graphics. So I'm going to jump straight across to that insert ribbon. And we've looked at many of these now. We've looked at pictures. We've seen how we can insert pictures from online. We've added some shapes, some icons, some 3D models, but we have these last three on this ribbon, so Smartart, Chart and Screenshot. So let's start with Smartart. Now, you would use Smartart if you wanted to create some kind of information graphic. So that might be something like an organizational chart to show the hierarchy of staff members. It might be something like a flow chart or a process chart. And you'll find all of those in Smartart. Now you can see here, I have on the left-hand side, we have some categories. I'm currently displaying all, so I could scroll through and take a look at all of the different Smartart graphics that I have. Or if I know sort of kind of what I'm looking for, I can select from the list. Now I'm going to do an organizational chart, which would come under this section here, hierarchy. And there we go, I get a choice of different hierarchical structures I could select. And this first one looks pretty good to me. I'm going to select it. I get a preview over on the right hand side to make sure that that is the one that I want, which it is. And I'm going to click on OK. And there we go, it's inserted my Smartart diagram. Now, hopefully you can see how much quicker that is than going in and manually drawing out all of these shapes and adding text boxes in and connecting them with lines. It's a lot quicker just to use a Smartart object. Now we clicked on our Smartart, you can see that we have a Smartart Tools contextual ribbon, which has a design and a format sub-ribbon. And these two control every element of your Smartart object. So we're going to look at some of these things now. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is this large group of Smartart styles. So this is fairly similar to picture. We get picture styles, shape styles. But if you want to go in and choose one of these, then you definitely can. And you'll see as I hover over them, I get those different effects applied to my document. So it might be that I want a 3D option. Now in this Smartart graphic, wherever I have the word text, that means that I can type in there and I can change it to what I want it to look like. So I'm going to add some text very quickly. I'm going to say this is CEO. And then underneath the CEO, we have the director. And you can see as I type, it will automatically resize the text to fit into that text box. We then have the VP of Sales, the VP of Finance, and then finally we have the VP of Operations. So very quick and simple just to edit those. Now it might be that you don't want this exact structure, and of course you can move things around, you can drag them around, but you also have this first group here, this Create Graphic group, and this is where you go to organize your Smartart graphic. So for example, if I wanted to add another shape, so maybe I want to add onto here the VP of Marketing, I just need to make sure that I have VP of Operations or the last one selected, and then I can say, click the drop down and say Add Shape After. And it gives me another box which I can type in. So I'm going to say VP of Marketing. And of course you saw in there that we have options to add shape before, add shape above, add shape below, so on and so forth. I can also do things like promote and demote a shape. So again, I've got my VP of Marketing selected, and if I do promote, it's going to move all the way up to there. And if I do demote, it's going to move back down again. I can also move right to left, so it now jumps all the way over to the left-hand side, or I can do it back again. I can change the layout of my diagram, so I can have standard, I can have both, I can have left hanging, right hanging, so it really depends how you want it to look. And I have more options for my layout down here, so if I wanted to select a completely different layout, then I could. So if I was to go to something like this one, the circle picture hierarchy, that's quite a nice one because this will allow you to add in the pictures of the people. So you can see there's the little picture icon in the middle. If you click on it, it will take you to your local drives where you can then add a picture. So that one's quite nice as well. Now I'm going to switch mine back to my original layout like so. And of course in the middle here you have options for changing the color of your diagram. So I could change it to any one of these. And finally, right on the end over on the right hand side, we have reset graphics. So if you've made quite a lot of changes and you want to just take it back to the original Smartart, then you can just click reset and it will take you back there. On the format ribbon, we have all of those options that we're used to seeing. We've looked at these previously when we've dealt with pictures and also shapes. So you can modify things individually as well. So if I wanted to change the color of the background of this one that says CEO, I could go to shape fill and I could change that to a completely different color if I wanted to. So all of the individual elements are also editable as well. So that's a very brief overview of Smartart. Hopefully that's given you enough information for you to start inserting your own Smartart diagrams and having a little play around with them. I'm going to just click at the bottom here and I'm going to do Control Enter to move on to the next page. And what I want to show you now is how to insert a chart into your document. So we're going to go back to the Insert ribbon and we're going to click on Chart. And again, we get taken into this Insert Chart dialog box and we have a whole host of categories. So many charts that you can insert into Word. And again, this is a very similar box that you get if you're working in something like Excel or PowerPoint. So we have things like column charts, we have line charts, and also at the top here, lots of different variations on line charts as well. We have pie charts, bar charts, area charts, and so many different ones. Now, in Word 2019, we do have some extra charts that haven't been available in previous versions. So that would be things like the funnel chart, the waterfall chart, the box and whisker chart, histogram, sunburst, tree map, and radar. So if you have an earlier version of Word, you might not have all of the ones that I can see in here, but if you are using 2016 or 2019, you should have the majority of these. Now, just to keep things simple, I'm just going to select a basic clustered column chart and I'm going to click on OK. And what basically happens is that you will get a template for a chart. And this little Microsoft Word box opens up. Now this looks very much like an Excel window. In fact, it is an Excel window. And we've just got some dummy data in there, which is currently showing in this chart. So the idea here is that you go into this little floating Excel window and you modify this data to reflect your own data. So it might be that I want to change this to the locations of our offices. So we're going to say Boston, New York, and Chicago. And maybe this is some kind of sales information. So we're going to say for January, February, March, and April. And you can see that as I've typed those in, it's updated down the bottom. So now I have January, February, March, April, and my key or my legend is showing Boston, New York, Chicago. And you'll see if I was to type in some numbers in here, so let's just say 456, 564, 345, so on and so forth. So you can see that those will change as we go through. I'll just add some more in here so you can see it reflected accurately. Like so. Okay, so your chart will then update automatically. When you're happy with your data, you can just close down this little floating Excel window and you can then get to formatting your chart. So you'll see that we have the Chart Tools contextual ribbon and we have a Design and Format sub ribbon. So the biggest group in here is this Chart Styles area, so you can really start to get quite fancy. And as I hover over some of these, you'll see the different ways that you can display your chart. So I think that one's quite nice, so I'm going to select that. You have a change colors option, so if I wanted to, I could go through and just modify the color of my chart. And I also have some quick layouts, so if I wanted to change the way that my chart looks, I have different layouts that I could utilize. So these will either show or hide certain elements. So you can see as I hover over the different ways that I can display my data in my chart. And then finally, we have this add chart element. So a chart element is anything that you see on the chart. So for example, the chart title is a chart element. The axis titles are a chart element. The legend is a chart element. And you can customize all of these from this drop down. So for example, chart title, if I didn't want one, I could turn it off. Or alternatively, I can just jump into here because it is just a text box and I can give my chart a title. So I might say sales figures for 2018. If I go back to chart element and let's go down to something like legend. So currently I have my legend running across the bottom, but I could choose to have it on the right if I wanted to. I could also add different things like axes titles. So I could add something else like data labels. So I could say, put them in the center, which will show the actual figures in the center, or the inside end, inside base, outside end. I can even show the data table underneath if I wanted to. So lots of different ways that you can customize the different elements of your chart. And incidentally, if you did want to get back that little floating Excel window, so maybe you need to update it or make a change, if you just click on this Edit Data button, you'll get your window back again and you can make whatever changes you need. And of course, the Format ribbon, again, fairly similar to what we've seen before, just allows you to control the individual elements of your chart, such as the shape fill, shape outline, things like that. So again, charts is a wonderful thing to have a little play around with and really get comfortable with. The final thing I want to show you on here, if we go back to the Insert ribbon, is this screenshot icon. So this will allow you to quickly add a snapshot of any window that you have open on your desktop, and it will put it straight into your document as a picture. So let me just show you what I mean. If I click the drop down, it's going to show me all of the windows that I currently have open. So you can see I have open another document. I have open 3 file explorers. So I could select any of these and it will take a quick screen capture of it and it will put it directly into my document. Alternatively, if you want to kind of have a bit more control, you could utilize this screen clipping option at the bottom. So again, if I click screen clipping, it's going to minimize the window that I'm currently in. And you can see I've kind of got this ghosting over the top and I have a crosshair. And what that means is I can basically click and drag over whatever's behind, and it's going to take that as a screenshot and automatically place it in my document. So you can see there, I now have that little screenshot in the document. So that's a really useful little feature. So that's it. That's an overview of all of the different types of graphical elements that you can add in to your document. So much to play with there. So please do have fun with that. All that's left to do to finish off this section is a quick practice exercise, and then we'll move on to section 11. So I will see you then.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so that you get notified about similar videos we upload. Now, to get the full Microsoft Word 2019 course, including follow-along exercise files, click over there. And click over there to watch all the videos in this Word 2019 playlist.